A few more items to discuss with fair housing. Um, First up is Americans with Disabilities Act. This is one of President Bush's legacies in 1990, creating this law. It is not about housing, but it is about requiring reasonable accommodations to employment spaces and public buildings to access goods and services. So more of an effect on commercial and industrial real estate. The next up is blockbusting. This is also known as panic selling. And blockbusting was huge in the 50s and 60s, where they would go in and basically do what might also be called white flight. Go into a neighborhood, scare the homeowners that by having a minority move into the neighborhood, the value of their properties would plummet. It's actually used to be a business practice. Crazy. I know back then agents, because there were no laws against it, would even hire maybe a Black woman to push a baby buggy down the sidewalks of a white neighborhood to convince them to leave and have a scare tactic about the value of their home. Crazy to think about. Another one is steering. And this, well, let me go back. Blockbusting is what we do to our homeowners, to our sellers. Steering is what we do with buyers when we tell them, wouldn't you feel more comfortable living over here? Oh, you want to live here. Ooh, but wouldn't you rather live more comfortable here where you got more folks that are like you? Okay, that's a discriminatory practice. Anybody can live wherever they want as long as they can afford it. And another act of that might be telling someone that there's no vacancies in an apartment building when there really is. Redlining actually is part of a lending practice. And I've given you a little bit of a map here as a sample. And they would create these red lines on these maps, and that was a signal to the bank that that is not where you wanted to do a loan, because it was filled with too high of a percentage of minorities. Again, crazy we used to do this. Then in the late 60s, we also had the Equal Opportunity Act created, which made this practice illegal. It also protected several classes against discrimination. One really good movie I'm going to recommend if you've got Apple TV is watch the movie The Banker, starring Samuel L. Jackson and a great cast of, I'm sure, a bunch of other people that you would famously know. But this is about two Black men who started to buy up properties and eventually bought two banks and started doing loans to minorities in these neighborhoods to help them. It's a great movie. And the two gentlemen featured in the movie actually went on, I believe, to testify in front of Congress in order to get this Equal Credit Opportunity Act passed into law. It's a very interesting story. Another good point for you to know is the exemptions to the fair housing law. This matters except for owner-occupied properties with 1 to 4 units. So this could be single family, this could be duplex, triplex, quadplex, if the owner occupies one of the units. An exemption would be when a real estate professional is not involved. It's a for sale by owner. And then another exclusion is going to be, as we discussed in the last video, housing where occupancy is for its members or a private club or maybe a religious organization. Overall, what I want to tell you about advertising for your career is this. When you're writing advertisements, focus on the property, not the people that you think are going to live there. You might think a house is great for a family because of the number of bedrooms and yard. You might think it's great for someone downsizing or a bachelor. Unfortunately, it is inappropriate for us to use that in our advertising. What is okay though is if you've got a female seeking female roommate where you're going to have the same shared space. And another thing to keep in mind is if you were to advertise a property specifically on maybe a Korean only, in a Korean only magazine, that could be seen as some sort of discriminatory practice or steering. Now, you can advertise your business on those platforms, but when we get property specific, that's what it's going to become an issue. One other thing that I've seen happen quite a bit is an agent that maybe writes walking distance to your favorite amenities. Walking distance indicates that you've got to be able to walk to live in that house. Or someone might put convenient to Hope Lutheran Church. Again, that makes the assumption or the indication that you've got to be Lutheran to buy that house. Those are two that I would really, really avoid. And I've got some other basic advertising guidelines, but again, focus on the property details, not the people who will live there.